Planning a cross-country move? First, you try to calculate the cost. But what if the top cost-saving strategy, doing it yourself, is a financial trap? Insiders warn that fuel, tolls, and lodging can secretly add $1,500 or more to a DIY budget. And that's before factoring in your lost wages from days spent packing and driving. Today, we're building a true cost calculator, revealing hidden fees and the plays that determine your final bill. Let's start with basics. The biggest factor for any quote is your home's size. More rooms mean more weight and volume, the main metric for long-distance jobs. This reveals our first strategy: downsizing. Relocation specialists say decluttering can cut transport costs by 30–50% before you even get a quote. You've downsized, but did you know the month you move can swing your bill by 30%? This is the peak versus off-peak season principle. Summer, weekends, and month ends are peak times with high prices. Booking midweek in October could save thousands over a Saturday in July. You've downsized and picked an off-peak date. You get a quote. But this number is where the big mistakes begin. The initial quote is just the tip of the iceberg. So, what's the single most vital detail on that quote, determining if the price is real or a fantasy? We'll reveal what 90% of people miss in a moment. First, why do quotes change? Variable costs, like fuel. Diesel prices fluctuate, and many quotes don't lock this in, causing surprise fuel surcharges on the bill. Next are access fees. Your quote assumes easy access. Stairs, elevators, long walks from the truck, or city parking permits all add labor and time, which you'll pay for. Then, specialty items. That piano, antique or oversized art. They require special packing, handling, and insurance, creating another line item on your invoice. Those fees hit on moving day. But what about costs that accumulate before and after? Think about storage, utilities, and your personal travel expenses. Now, the answer to our earlier question. The most vital detail on your quote is whether it's binding or non-binding. A binding quote locks in your price. A non-binding quote is just an estimate. The final cost can be much higher. This is your primary defense. Always request a binding not-to-exceed estimate in writing. Let's revisit that DIY move with a real-world breakdown. First, the truck rental. Then, fuel. Analysts calculate $800 to $1,500 just to get the truck cross-country. Next, packing supplies, boxes, tape, and bubble wrap can cost several $100s. Then, the big one, lost wages. A week off for 2 people is 2 weeks of salary gone. Add rental, fuel, supplies, insurance, lodging, and lost wages, and the cheap DIY option often meets or exceeds the cost of hiring professionals. There is a middle ground: portable moving containers. You pack it yourself, saving on labor, but a company handles the transport, saving you fuel and drive time. You have your strategy. But what about factors completely outside your control? The market itself can inflate your costs. For instance, recent labor shortages have driven movers' hourly rates up nearly 30%. This directly affects the cost of your move, even if you optimize everything else. But the most dangerous factor isn't the market. It's deception. Industry insiders warn of rogue movers. They lure you with a non-binding quote that's too good to be true. On moving day, with your life on their truck, they double or triple the price, holding belongings hostage. Your defense? Never pay a large cash deposit, check for a valid DOT number, and read recent reviews. And as we covered, always demand a binding estimate in writing. With all these hidden fees, scams, and market forces, how do you actually take control? It's about layering your strategies. Let's connect the dots. Remember how downsizing can cut costs by 50%? And moving off-season saves another 30%. Combining these two is the ultimate power move. Now, add your knowledge of seasonality. You have an advantage. During off-peak times, companies are more willing to negotiate. Use one binding quote to get a better deal. Finally, view moving insurance not as a cost, but as a cap on potential losses. The 1 to 2% for full value protection is a small price to avoid catastrophic replacement costs. The strategy is clear. Downsize first. Schedule off-peak. Get multiple binding quotes. Negotiate. And insure everything. This builds a budget based on reality, not ads. We started with a simple question about cost and found the initial price is just a starting point. The true cost is a complex web of fees, charges, and personal expenses. Your 3 key takeaways. 1. Challenge the DIY myth by calculating lost wages. 2. Demand a binding not-to-exceed quote. 3. Downsize before scheduling off-peak. An online calculator gives you a number. This insight gives you control. By understanding the full equation, you can manage your move with confidence and financial clarity. Share this with someone planning a big move. And for more analyses of complex costs, subscribe for our next video.